Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for our spotlight interview with Chris Watchorn. He is the General Manager of Finance Order to Cash here at Canada Post. And today we'll be speaking about delivering change for the customer. And on CSPN side, we have David Singh. He's our managing partner here, who will be interviewing Chris this afternoon. And I will pass it over to him to begin our session today.
Great. Thanks so much, Jenna. And Chris, welcome. We're really glad to have you here. And I think you're joining us from Ottawa today. Is that right? Oh, you might be on mute as we get going.
We're off to a good start with the controls,
yeah.
David. Yes, happily joining you from the nation's capital today. Great to see you.
Fantastic, thank you. And I see you've got the Canada Post mailbox behind you on your desk, which is great. And are those mail trucks as well? This is great. Well branded. Well branded.
My kids look after the office, getting it all set up for me here at home.
Yeah, it's everyone's new home office is always a new setup in sort of as we sort of navigate the pandemic and working through that. So as we get started, folks, I just wanted to thank our sponsors, Microsoft, around the Dynamics 365 team, and they've actually created a great ebook and playbook for organizations looking to connect with their employees and develop across rapid change. And we'll send a link in the invite or in the thank you note on this, but Microsoft.com/together is a great place to go and check out that resilience playbook. So I know we're going to be talking about some of those themes as we go through the conversation today, Chris, and I know you've been a great supporter of CSPN over the years as you've moved through lots of different parts of your career, and so we want to talk a little bit about some of those career navigations, some of the leadership agenda you've got at Canada Post, and how the team's reacting and adjusting as we move through the pandemic. So maybe for our sake, and it's always better to sort of hear it from the leader themselves, can you tell us a little bit about, sort of introduce yourself and the path that sort of brought you through to sort of where you're at in your career today? We'd just love to get a little bit of background on you.
Yeah, absolutely, David. So my career started many years ago at Rogers, and actually, if I go back even prior to that, I was off at university in a co-op program, finance and accounting, political science, economics, all these corporate elements, had opportunities lined up in the economics field after university, but by being in Waterloo for the summer, came across an opportunity to become a customer service agent with Rogers, and really right from the get-go took one of those career pivots and went off to Rogers. So spent about 7 years with Rogers in various roles, from frontline agent all the way up to site lead, and had great experience and opportunity across all facets of customer service, customer experience, and really had those opportunities that are so important in one's career to jump at the opportunity for some of those projects, including opening up the contact center here in Ottawa many years ago, and having the chance to travel to many different sites as Rogers implemented things. Fast forward in the career with Rogers about 7-8 years, and came to that inflection point in one's career where you're saying, do I become a lifer with Rogers, or should I go experience and do other things? So I made the bold move to go off and do other things. So spent a couple of years with American Express, which created some great global opportunities, and then went off to Teleperformance. So now working on the service provider side of the field, and had a great opportunity there to really manage Canadian customers' business in Canada and wherever their business took them globally. Unfortunately, though, with young children at home, that global element of travel created many problems that my wife and our young children had to endure. And then the opportunity came Canada Post. So the career experiences at that point really brought me to Canada Post, because Canada Post was looking to outsource its customer service for the first time. And my experience and expertise would help the organization figure out how to effectively do that and how to manage that element of change. So I did that for a number of years at Canada Post, and about 2 years ago was moved into a finance role, which is another non-traditional role within my career, as being the customer service guy for many years. But I looked at it as that great opportunity to go into a different organization within the company and really change the conversation, and really make the conversation all about the customer, which I think is one of those key values that I have always brought to the table, is how do you focus the business on the customer? Because without the customer, you're not in business, and ultimately try to balance that with some of those past finance educations and experiences to make that become the good fit that it is today.
It's super interesting, and I think I can empathize of having been sort of also in that. The global sounds exciting to a certain point, but it also wears on you, and travel is fun until it's required sometimes, and so I can see that sort of moving through. And I think the ability, like when you think about Rogers, American Express, Teleperformance, and at CanadaPost, these are three like really well-known brands, and Teleperformance is a very well-known brand from for those who are in the space. But consumer-facing brands, when you think about those, and to have that experience and the different cultures that play, I'm sure very different organizations, different consumer products for sure, but there's probably a lot of trends, and to have that experience, I think, probably brings it through. And then going from that customer service mindset, and then again having that operational and finance perspective is really interesting. And I think just that idea of diversity of experiences probably lends a lot to your role and some of the your part. And maybe just to give us some context, when you say finance order to cash, it's a big, it probably makes a lot of sense internally, and people are, I get it, but like maybe for us who like to mail things and send things, what does that mean from an external perspective within the scope of your role?
So the scope of my role is a broad role. So we are responsible, once a contract is signed with a commercial customer, so any of the large retailers, for example, in Canada, my team is responsible to make sure all of those terms, conditions, and pricing arrangements are properly inputted in the system so we can bill the customer properly. The second component to what we do is making sure that every piece of mail and every parcel that gets deposited in the network is properly declared by the customer and billed by the customer. So there's a whole order assurance role that we provide as well. So making sure that we are being properly paid for our services, not undercharging our customers, and that we're doing that in an accurate and timely manner. The third component, which has become a very interesting component over the past 6 months, is all around credit adjudication. So the team is also responsible for setting credit parameters, credit terms, credit limits for medium, large, and some of our significant customers, which, as we've seen with the impacts of COVID-19, we've had a number of retailers across Canada file for protection under CCAA. And in the US, certainly lots of customers have been taking advantage of bankruptcy. So the team every day is trying to make sure that we've got the right credit attributed to each customer such that when the bill comes due, they'll be there to pay it. And the fourth pillar of the team is around claims. So anytime a consumer or business has a problem with a product or service that we provide, they're responsible to make sure that claim is adjudicated consistently, fairly, and in a timely fashion. So it's a very broad rule from an order to cash from that perspective. But as you say, it's one of those roles that's not ununique to other entities. It's a little bit unique in terms of the scope and the number of products and services that we do ultimately provide and have to be accountable for. But it's one of those opportunities where one of my passions has always been around, you need to make it easy for the customer, you need to make it simple, and when it doesn't go right, you need to make it right. And when I walked into this role, it was very much a role focused around business control, business process, and it wasn't focused around how do we make it easy for a customer to do business with it, how do we make it simple. So certainly over the past 2 years, a lot of the team's focus has been driven around, let's focus on the customer with our base set on the business controls, but really how do we take a look at all of the processes and procedures that we've got in place that we need to protect our shareholder and the company from a financial standpoint, but how do we go about making all of those things easier for customers? And ultimately, that customer passion I've always had, right? Like, let's make it right. So let me get out there and talk to customers on a regular basis about what their pain points are and how I can help them, and trying to drive that whole message of customer empowerment through the organization as well has also been a hugely fun thing as well.
So I'm going to jump around on some of my questions.
Sorry, I think I did there too, David.
No, that's great. And I think I want to probe a little deeper on that one, because it's and in all our previous conversations, it's clear the experience you've had and the passion of saying, how do we make this right from the customer, and say, get away from, it's not a product 1, 2, 3, 5. On the other end of that, this is a person that's calling it. It's a business owner. It's an individual at a company that is trying to send something from one place to another, or multiple things to multiple places. Like, as you came into that role, have come into your role, into the broader role from that perspective, like, how have you driven that change? You mentioned talking to customers, you mentioned other things. Like, what else have you done to sort of help drive that mindset shift?
So I think for me, it's probably a couple of things, but I think for me, it's that mindset of you're always learning. So you want to be informed. So every day for me starts with reviewing results and understanding what happened yesterday so I can help make today better. Yeah. It starts with asking questions. So I find lots of leaders, and I'm finding it's become a trend that's perhaps been exacerbated by the fact we're not in a meeting room together, where it's a little bit easier to ask a colleague sitting beside you, hey, what does that mean? But it's still just asking those questions and making sure you fully understand the ideas and the concepts. And certainly, my experience since we've moved into COVID is the volume of email has just exacerbated exponentially here, as lots of those little questions go back and forth. So leveraging technology to take advantage of answering those questions. But sorry, getting back to it. So always learning. I think it's about being innovative, challenging the status quo. So looking at the problems from different perspectives, leveraging the team you work with. Just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean that's the right way to do it. The adage always is, what's right isn't always simple, and what's simple isn't always right. So it again let's find the right thing to do for the business, for the customer, and make that into a balanced equation. I also think from a leadership standpoint, the efficiency aspect is important as well. It to me is more important that the commitments, the timelines, that you're not a roadblock in a process. You're getting through your activities and your commitments to your leader as well as to your team. And I think that also ties into being self-confident, that you've got the ability to get the job done, and you'll find a way to work with the team and really bring them along in a journey. It's never about oneself, it's about the team. And to me, that ties into kind of that last value about being humble. It's an important element to bring into this, that I'm not going out there as the sole face of my organization. It's a team, and I want to be very proud of the work that they do and recognize the work that they do, because quite frankly, without their efforts that have been challenged significantly over the past 6 months, we would not be having some of the great metrics that we've been able to achieve this year. And it's really a testament to the fact that the team has really stepped up and has risen to the challenge.
Yeah, I think that that curiosity of asking questions and making sure that everyone can ask questions in an organization and feel good, and that people don't feel personally challenged by those questions. And sometimes it's a question for clarification, and sometimes it's why are we doing it this way? Is there a better way? And being open to it. I'm sure everyone's always a little bit, not always open to some of those questions, but it's a challenge from that perspective. As you've gone out to talk to clients specifically, what do you look for when you're chatting with clients? Is it that, are they satisfied? Is it more that you're chatting with some of the loudest customers or the largest customers? Like, how did you approach chatting with directly with customers?
So I think my conversations with customers have evolved over the roles that I've done at CanadaPost. So if I go back to the customer-centric role, the customer care role that I had for many years, the alert would always be a customer had an issue, and then you'd work with the customer to try to resolve the issue. So after going through that a couple of times, the little spidey sense up here says, maybe you should be proactive and see if you can try to avoid some of these issues. So I like to leverage the opportunity when I was traveling to various sites or to see various parts of the operation across the country, to go have an opportunity to go sit down with the customer or talk to the customer. And certainly for a large organization, they always seem to appreciate the fact that we were listening. I think it's the follow-up that goes along with it too. So for me, it's a simple thank you note back to the customer to say thank you very much for your time. But to your question, I'm not going out, I've never gone out looking for the loudest customer, the complaining customer. I'm really trying to find the silent majority. And for me, those are the ones that are most at risk of just packing up their business and shipping it off somewhere else. The ones that are complaining are often complaining for a reason. They may not have an alternative, or that's simply the way they are. It's really those that don't complain that you always want to try to be able to get at. And for me, it's going in and being even um, more questioning than I would be in an internal scenario with a customer, and just that general sense of fascination and understanding. Why do you pack your boxes that way? Why do you load the trucks that way? Why do you do this? Um, why does the guy at the front of the dock doing this, and why is the lady at the back of the dock doing this? And it's not to question how they've established their workflow and their process. It's really to try to understand if that works for them. Is that something that can come back into our order assurance mindset down the road with another customer and just suggest, hey, you know, if you thought about switching these two processes around, that may work better for you to get more items out when our driver shows up for a pickup, for example. I think the other thing that's important for me as well is spending time with our operations team. So as part of our mandate, we support 19 plants across the country and several hundred other locations, smaller, like the depot or the neighborhood facility, where smaller customers can drop off mail. But we need to make sure that that's a consistent experience for our customers. And on top of that, we've got a whole litany of retail locations in rural Canada, and we need to make sure that the customer's experience is consistent regardless of the channel and where they're doing it. It's important for me personally that the team is treating all customers equally. But certainly we've got customers in certain scenarios that will go left one day to one location, will go right the next day to another. And if they don't get the same experience, then that creates lots of problems for us to make sure that we're properly supporting their business and we've got the right tools downstream to help with that. And I think lastly for me, particularly as a customer service leader, the other mindset was just spending time with the frontline agents and listening to them as the voice of the customer. So I've always enjoyed just pulling up a headset and sitting down with an agent, be it a claims agent now or a credit agent. And again, very questioning approach. What are you working on? Can you show me that? Is this a normal type of interaction? How would you do that differently? What types of tools have you got? And really trying to help champion the voice of the customer through the agent experience. If the agent experience isn't as best as we can make it, then my problem internally is I'm going to lose these great agents to other parts of the company. And I'm also going to make my experience or my goal of making it easy and making it simple from a customer standpoint not achievable because I don't have the agents buy-on to help support identifying those issues, flagging those opportunities, and helping us drive those changes.
No, I think I totally agree with being able to talk to the frontline agents to really see hear that voice of the customer, but also try to have the quick, maybe not the most impactful, but the quickest lever of saying if they are more empowered, it's going to be a quick way to or a direct way to impact the customer. All sorts of back office technology or process changes will come over time, but being able to have that, being able to equip the agents with knowledge and power to be able to do that, and I think that's something that's just really important from that perspective. I want to switch gears a little bit to ask a little bit about we're in the middle of a pandemic. Like I know my buying patterns have changed in the last 6 months. I was never much of an online shopper, and now I am more of it because I have to. And when we were chatting, it was funny when we were chatting with another member of our council, and they have a retail footprint as well. And one of the comments was that the retail shops, the foot traffic was down, but the basket sizes were up, which I thought was just a really interesting perspective on the retail side of things. As you guys look forward to the holiday season coming up, you've probably seen an increase in packages. Like, what have you seen, and what are you expecting, and that you can share with this group?
So I guess the first thing that we've seen obviously was back in March. We saw unprecedented volumes hitting our network, as did any other transportation company. And I think since then, all of us have done a good job of, and I'm speaking of the industry collectively, have done a good job of stabilizing the network to really try to drive customer experience. From a CanadaPost standpoint, I'll talk one about the outreach. So we've been very proactive with the Retail Council of Canada, NAMU, all of the various retail organizations, as well as with our large customers, to really say that how we've done it before, that was always that chaos between Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that free shipping period that we created as an industry in early December, all to get stuff to people's homes by the end of December, that's not going to work this year. So certainly we saw Amazon took a very deliberate approach with Prime Day moving into October to really now start that buying frenzy. And I know my my inbox and even our mailbox are getting filled up with flyers from merchants trying to start creating that sense of purchase early. So for us in particular, we're certainly encouraging all of our retail customers to plan their marketing strategies accordingly, and that their normal pattern of a massive ramp up the week or two before Christmas is not a sustainable model for us. And really that's driven on two things. One, it's driven on our operating model. We've got plants and networks that are older than I am that certainly weren't designed to support physical distancing and 2-meter spacing in particular. So we've got some operational challenges. Now, the operational team has done an absolutely phenomenal job over the past 6 months of working through as many of those as they can to minimize the impact on our customer to help ensure that the throughput continues to be there. The other fear that we've got as well is that due to either incidents or others, that we've got the concern that the second wave or third wave may also impact delivery, may impact the customer's ability to access retail and stores. So Ottawa is in one of the hotspots along with you guys in Toronto right now. So we've seen some changes that have been enacted by the government. So the other fear becomes that if the government takes any of those actions that impacts retail close to Christmas, that's going to drive another one of those panic online buying trips or toilet paper 2.0 problems that we saw back in March. So again, just really encouraging, and I would encourage everybody on here, make this the year you get all your shopping done at least a month in advance. You know it's done. You don't have to worry about it. It's certainly one less stressful item for you to worry about. So I think for us, we're trying to be very proactive. The other thing, we built a lot of investment in technology and additional brand messaging for customers. So you'll notice in our retail locations, additional information available to customers about how long it's going to take an item to get there. So we're trying to be more proactive and cognizant of that. Just this past weekend, we made some further improvements into the AI in our systems that helps determine what the delivery date of an item will be. So we made some modifications to that such that we can better set customer expectations on your item. But in short, we continue to play a very active role in the community, and certainly for those of you working from home, I suspect, much like me, you see the litany of the driver trucks going up and down the street every day, and is it how much the neighbor keeps ordering? But happy to see it's a CanadaPost delivery, so that's great. But yeah, I think patterns have changed, and then you're right. What we're hearing from retail customers is the shopping basket is increased exponentially. However, the volume in the store has gone down significantly. So I look a lot of retailers where on a Saturday in the past, we'd grab the kids and we'd go wander around and we do some of that window shopping and may pick up a thing here or there. Where certainly now it's become a much more deliberate activity for us that I want that item from that retailer and I'm going to go in to get that. So we're also seeing further emergence of that online ordering for curbside pickup and more of the retailers, the larger ones, offering it directly to the consumer's vehicle, like the grocery stores have done for a while. So I think it's going to be a very interesting holiday trend. The other element, if I go back to my credit view, is I'm not sure what January is going to look like, depending on how holiday season plays out for a number of retailers that may have been struggling prior to COVID and are now in that state of some financial rockiness. So when I look at main streets in Ottawa or Toronto or Montreal or anywhere across the country, I'm very frightful for all of those small businesses that have always been the power engine of the Canadian economy and the jobs market. And that becomes that whole other dimension of what does 2021 look like for those, and will we see further impacts from a recession? And certainly remain optimistic. It won't be too bad, but certainly we'll say that 2020 certainly did not end the way any of us were predicting it was going to start. That's for sure.
No, I think a lot of people are saying, can we just do like a blip over like the Men in Black kind of, we forget about 2020. It's just been a wild year, and I think absolutely. I think some of those and I think it's just interesting to hear from your perspective of describing your forced into a peak response to, again, in March, and then being able to use the summer to plan and replan, and again, thinking from physical plant through to customer messaging in a contact center environment, or leveraging that into your AI bots, and then being able to weave it into the retail side. And I think a lot of us have been forced to do that, and a lot of our clients have been forced, and members have been forced to do that as well. So it's just interesting to hear sort of that the multi dimensional nature of and the sort of cross channel and the omni of the change that is happening. And if I guess if you, I'm more curious, as you've been leading that, there must have been, I'm not sure if you've been able to figure out if there's been mistakes that have been made, or just say, let's like sort of in sort of high growth mode, which is just make decisions and keep moving forward, is really sort of seems to be the recipe that we've seen with a lot of our clients. But I'm not sure if you've seen it from your perspective that way.
Yeah, I would say the only difference being CanadaPost, we have a single shareholder, the government of Canada. So there's despite being an independent crown corporation, there's always a bit of big brother sitting on your shoulder there. So while a lot of what we have done as an organization, and I can't say it enough, the men and women that are out there in the field every day delivering or working in our plants and facilities, I mean, they have gone through all of these peaks and valleys over the past 6-7 months while they navigate that. As an organization, and I'll talk even just more to my team, it was that mid-March decision on a Friday afternoon that as of Monday, everybody will work from home, execute upon that. And that drove very much trying to make sure the employees were safe, that our business would continue from a continuity standpoint. So we had a little bit of experience. Thankfully, one of the things around our employee feedback last year was a desire for more employees to work from home. So we had started doing some pilots in Q4 of 2019. So we went from 5% of the staff worked remotely to 100 in the span of 3 or 4 days. But it was being able to turn that quickly. But that then created a whole bunch of other problems where in our world, we have international customers that actually mail us their claims physically. So we still need to send people to do that, or customers pay by check and we have to go into the office to collect and process those. So it's certainly been one of those things where we need to be quick. And then we had a little bit of things that have fallen to the side that need to get caught up on. And I think it was also one of those things where in the early days, the team was so conscious of the children learning in the background or the baby crying in the background that the entire country and the world, I think, became acceptable to, it's okay to have the kid in the background. It's okay to mute yourself on a call to go take care of that. And customers were understanding of that as well. So we had always been very conscious that, oh my goodness, what's our large customer going to say if they've got a crying baby or a child looking for help with a math question in the background? And the reality is we're all humans. We've all got families, if not our own. We've got cousins and nieces and nephews. So we understand. And I think that was the big thing. It was about, we understand and it's okay to have those background noises and effects. Obviously, you want to do your best to contain the environment. But the team did a tremendous job there. And I know we talk about technology. And if I go back 6 months ago, we were, as an organization, we were on a server-based environment of Office 2013. And in the span of 6 months, we've deployed teams across the entire company. We've moved to Office 365 in the cloud. And we've really created those tools that help empower us to have these types of discussions where I can see you on the screen, we can have a chat, we can share the files that we're working on together and help collaborate. So some of our initial challenges were around, we didn't have a good way to operate. So we've had the opportunity over a couple of months to get those in place to help us get ready now for our busiest time of the year as we really work to support the business through the last few months of the year. And I think the other thing we talk about as an organization is we always look at how would you grade ourselves in terms of our response. And it's interesting when I've talked to other members, other colleagues, other executives at the company, and some will say, oh, B, C, and it's always nice to hear those that are saying A or A plus. Like, we did not stop the flow of the mail. Customer parcels continued to get to customers, that it was important that we were able to get medicine delivered, that we were able to get benefit checks out to customers across the country. And through everything that we've endured, the team has come to work they're smiling, albeit behind their masks, but they're smiling, they're still happy, and there's still that that collaborative spirit at Canada Post is still alive and very strong as we kind of come through 6 months. And my other comment is that from a leader standpoint, looking out for your team. I think a lot of people in the early days took the view that this is a sprint. Well, no, guys, this is a marathon, and you need to make sure that you're taking time for yourself, encouraging your team to take time for them. And now we're spending a lot of time on mental health aspects, that we've got people in places such as Toronto in a 600 square foot apartment that they assume they'd only be in on the weekends, not 7 days a week, and trying to make sure that they've got outlets to be able to stay in contact with their peers and their colleagues on the team, and really reinforcing our mental health paradigms, talking a lot about it's okay to not be okay, providing wellness sessions and other support to the teams to really try to help them navigate this. And my strong desire from the team lead perspective is to really say, I want to be doing all these things now, because I talked to a lot of people in the spring, and we were the days were getting longer. The snow was melting, at least here in Ottawa. We still had snow in the early days of this. But all of those elements of spring were around the corner as we started down this COVID journey. And now, not having the luxury of that, we really need to be cognizant as the days get shorter and there's darkness now at your home office window, how we can really make sure our team is staying safe and remains engaged and is able to help do everything that they need to do for themselves, provide that support for their family, and ultimately be there to help our customers when they need help as well.
Yeah, no, something we hear with a lot of our clients and with our team as well, of just sort of how do you react to this new normal? How do you set up new patterns of going to work and having those new norms? How do you accept the distractions that happen and when they do pop up and the internet gets slow and things are happening, and if you've got kids also using the bandwidth at home, and I think hopefully the saving grace and workplaces that you say this is what we're working towards. And I think to me it's that there's the right attitude, and keeping the attitude in place for folks of saying we can do this, and keeping focus on the mission. And I think that's one thing that we've tried, at least in terms of this. One of the things that we shifted one of our events in our Women in Leadership event, which is coming up in a few weeks, which we're really excited about. Jenna, who introduced us earlier, is leading the charge on that. And the goal of that event is really just to create a space for people to have conversations that are not connected to what's part of my day and my day job, but hopefully helping them out, similar to this kind of conversation of hearing someone's perspective in a different organization. And I think what we've seen with our clients is that there's more commonality amongst organizations of how did we get that push, and we should be proud of what we've done. And have we got all the way there? No. As we look into 2021, is it going to be a year-over-year growth? Maybe, maybe not. Are we going to see declines? Probably, and that's okay. But it's about how do we keep that direction. So I think all really interesting messages. And as to sort of we sort of round the last little corner on some questions, I wanted to ask a question about your personal career, and as you've moved through, and you've had some of these jumps, and you've pivoted through a few different organizations, and were there reasons that sort of drove those pivots? You mentioned sometimes sort of wanting to move away from global travel and that kind of component, but were there other bits of advice that you would give as people are thinking about navigating their career, and that from your perspective?
I think I'd say two things to that, David. From that advice would be every opportunity I had to get involved in a project or get out of that comfort zone of your day job 9 to 5, always take that opportunity. Those give you opportunities to experience other parts of your organization, network and meet other people, and really can open your eyes to the other facets and opportunities that exist within your career path. So to me, throughout my career, be it Rogers, CanadaPost, anywhere, has always been about taking the opportunity to get involved in those projects, expanding your mindset, and really giving you that opportunity to help influence change for the future and help build upon your success. From the other pivot points, for me, I think I'm still a little bit of that economist accountant type. They were Often deliberate. So the Rogers one was a very deliberate move in terms of, am I going to stay here forever? Am I going to make a change? But that one in particular has enabled me to get to where I am and built upon several other changes in my career down the road. When I look at the other pivot to move away from customer service, which I had done for, gosh, over 20 years, into this more finance role, it was one of those interesting pivots and discussions with my wife and others around, honey, this seems weird. You've always been customer service, and now you're going to go to finance. And well, why can't we do customer service in finance? So it's also looking at those opportunities differently. And for me, in my career, I would say it's always been about all of the things that are important to me still apply whatever the role is. I'm helping my team simplify things. I'm making it easier, and I'm trying to make it right. That when we've always got that opportunity to stay close to the customer, which I am definitely most passionate about, it's that great opportunity. So from a pivot, from a career standpoint, I would say absolutely reach out, take those opportunities as they come. And I think that's even more important in today's environment, right? That as so much has changed, we, like many organizations, are now interviewing remotely, hiring remotely, and not even able to meet a person face to face. It's over a meeting such as this, a computer, laptop, phone, or whatever we need to do is sent directly to their house to get them set up and connected, and we're training virtually. So that's a huge change for my organization in particular. But to me, that's also become very clear and is now becoming commonplace that it's okay to look for work in this day and age. It's okay to look for different opportunities. And then I think it's also important to reach out and make those connections and have those conversations. And the most important thing one can do is listen and ask those open-ended questions of a leader. Reach out for a 15-minute conversation and just throw a couple of questions out that way and listen to the feedback. I find it's much like many training seminars or sessions or conferences. It's not 100% of new material. It's those nuggets that you can take out of each of those sessions and apply them back to your personal career, to your organization, to your team, that I think are one of the biggest values. And certainly in today's environment where we've got all these people working from home, it may be a little bit more difficult to do that, but don't be afraid to schedule a 15-minute video chat with the CEO of your company or with some other executives and just have a quick chat, or leverage your other contacts to be able to go out and just have those conversations. I think that's very important. And I think the other thing that I look at as being important from career is that asking questions. So when we were chatting earlier, one of the stories I shared with you was how we saw an email come in from one of our credit card companies promoting one of our small business customers with what had the potential to be an amazing promotion for them. And instead of looking at it from, oh, that's a great deal, my mind went to, oh my gosh, do they have enough credit to ship with us? Do they have the right platform to ship with us? And turns out they didn't, and that would have been a disaster. But no problem, we were able to fix it before the promotion landed on their dock. So it was also trying to encourage the team to look at things and ask questions differently. So as you're seeing things in your inbox, in your mail, in your neighborhood, ask those questions about how it impacts you, impacts your team, your career. How can your organization respond to help customers, help businesses, help retailers as this pandemic plays out in your neighborhood? Ask those questions, look for ways that your organization is providing support, and look for ways that you and your leader can also collaborate to provide support too. I think it's a scary time in many regards, but it also presents some great opportunities for people much younger than myself and older too, but to come forward with those new great ideas to help us navigate the pandemic, right? We've seen all kinds of industries spurned overnight, a great response from people just by asking some of those questions and doing things differently outside of their wheelhouse or outside of the services they provided. They were able to start doing things differently there. So I think it's exciting. And I think the last thing that I'll say is that a lot of what we've built and we are building, I suspect is either here forever or at least here for a long time. That the environment of everybody in an office building downtown working together may not be the same in the future, and we may be more deliberate at when we get together in an office, that it's for some of those strategic collaborative things that, albeit work remotely, may not be ideal, but a lot of the day-to-day or one-on-one stuff we can certainly do from the comfort of home and from the flexibility that goes along with it. So I think it's going to be an exciting holiday season and certainly a very exciting year ahead.
Absolutely, and I want to thank you for taking the time to you started off with our conversation around asking questions and being curious, and that sort of is your mindset going into your role, and that advice going into the new year and the holiday season, and to the advice for people in their careers of keep asking questions. So I think it's a great theme, and I've been fortunate that you've given us some time to ask you some questions for our folks to listen in on, and I know you've got a busy schedule, so I just want to say thank you very much for all the advice you've shared, and I think it's been great to listen into some of to ask you some questions and to get some of the advice as we move forward. So with that, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Microsoft, as well, for supporting us. We'll send some links out in going forward. And Chris, most of all, thank you to you, to your team, and to all the Canada Post team for all the work that they do to make sure that we get the packages that we want, and all of the things that arrive at our doors, and the dogs can go crazy and the neighbors can be nosy, and your team's helping us out. So Chris, thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It was great chatting with you today, David. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. We'll look forward to seeing everyone at the next Spotlight interview. And for those who aren't signed up already, please come and join us at the Women in Leadership Summit later on in November. So with that, we'll sign off and have a great day, everyone.